Hey everybody, Portland Chess Shop here to bring you the chess action, and I'm going to be showing you a little bit more about what's been going on in the USA Chess Championships. So let's check it out. I'm on ICC, and here's the little window that tells me the news. Under Live US Championship Coverage, I click Info here. There's also USChess.com has information as well. And here we see that Kamsky is pulled ahead, and he is half a point ahead of Nakamura. Yeah, as the standings after round 9, there are going to be 11 rounds in the tournament, so there's 2 more rounds left. So Nakamura is going to have to win. The Kamsky versus Nakamura, I heard, is the last round of the tournament, which will obviously be very exciting. I don't know who has white and who has black for that match, but that will be a decisive game. If Nakamura, could win that game, then he could pull ahead and win the tournament. Kamsky is a great positional player, though. He is a very, very, very strong player. So, I would be happy if he wins as well. Those two players, Kamsky and Nakamura, being the 2 heavy favorites for the tournament. So I think I want to cover this game that happened. So you can see Nakamura drew Lenderman in round 9. Kamsky beat Sirawan in round 9. Kamsky had white. So that was not so good for Nakamura, drawing with the white pieces. Whereas in round 10, or round 8, Schulman and Nakamura drew. Sorry, I'm making mistakes. This is round 8, Strupinski versus Nakamura. Nakamura won with black. And then also here, Kamsky versus Lenderman. Kamsky was black. Kamsky also won with black. So those are, in the same day, both players had decisive results with black. So you can see they're both maybe playing a little bit sharper to try to pull ahead, but both had decisive games that day. Pretty exciting. So let's check out one of these games. I think I want to try to check out maybe this Kamsky game, Kamsky versus Lenderman. So here we are, and we'll try to go through it kind of quickly. Maybe we can look at the other game as well. So Lenderman leads with d4. Kamsky responds with queen pawn. They go into the queen's gambit. And Kamsky plays the semi-Slav, or the Slav at least. The knight comes to f3, and the other knight comes out. So now there's 3 knights out, and now it's an option of playing the pawn up or the bishop out. No, Kamsky plays the a6 Slav, and he did lose with the a6 Slav earlier in the tournament. And I heard that this is like what he always does, so he's very easy to prepare for. But then again, maybe he knows it well, and maybe it's a sound opening. So you can't always, beat a sound opening just because you know your opponent's going to play it. So c5 immediately is played. I would probably play, whatever the exact line was where Kamsky lost with black, because that was where, Kamsky fell behind. I actually showed that game. Portland Chess Shop, we had some YouTube coverage. There was a pass pawn on a6, and it was very dangerous. By the way, if you can thumbs up this video if you like it, it does really help me out a lot. It gets more views, and I'm just trying to spread the chess. So thanks a lot for watching. So we see g6 is played. The idea is to get this bishop on the long diagonal. And now a3. It seems like kind of passive play by Lenderman, I think. I don't know. I mean, this must be a line. I'm sure he prepared it. Lenderman being a player who studies a lot. Now the bishop has an alcove. It can hide back here, and it's staying on the long diagonal. Not the longest diagonal, though, because this is the longest diagonal for the dark squares. Anyway, this bishop comes out, and the queen comes out attacking the b3. This is kind of the weakness in black's base. Once this bishop comes out, which it kind of does need to come out because you want to push this pawn 1 or 2 squares, and then this pawn will be weak. The idea behind a6, a lot of it is that you're trying to take on c4 when this pawn is still there, and then you can keep it, and so that's why c5 was played. So the knight comes out to attack the bishop. The bishop moves. Now the knight comes forward. The knight's threatening to go here, and this knight comes out to defend that square. e3 is played. Knight comes down to e4, centralizing itself. There's almost, some potential of creating a threat to fork those, but that's basically just what you'd see at a coffee shop. That's some noob chess. So the knight comes back to f3. h6 is played, and this bishop comes out. White is preparing to complete his development. You can see black has, a little bit less space, but he is also developed most of his pieces, and he's okay. It's pretty close. F5, that's pretty interesting move, gaining a lot of space, but also having this like very weak backwards pawn here. The bishop could cut back here. This pawn could come up here, but then the light square. I don't know. This move, Crafty doesn't like it too much. Crafty likes h4 in response, which does make sense, preventing g5. If g5 is played, then I think that this position could be good for black. So rook is played to c1, and now g5 is played. I do think that this is, what black had in mind. You can see Lenderman has a little bit more time, but now White's initiative is neutralized, I think. Black has some pretty significant space. Now that g5 has been played, this bishop is going to be a good bishop. It's not going to be a bad bishop. Bishop retreats. The rook comes up. Castles. White has not castled yet, which is kind of interesting. Knight comes forward. Takes. And now, as I predicted, this bishop has come out and is attacking down this diagonal. And after e6, for example, you can see all the pawns are going to be basically on light squares. And so that means that if you trade off this, if you don't have this bishop anymore, then you're in good shape because you don't have a bishop that's constricted by all the pawns. It's not very good drawing, but I'm just trying to get you the point. He wants to trade off this dark squared bishop now, but the knight retreats. I think the idea is that maybe black's king is a little bit exposed if that bishop is traded off. Interesting, the queen comes forward offering a queen trade, but Kamsky doesn't want a queen trade. So queen trade is made anyway, and now the bishops come off. Kind of interesting that the knight retreated and then came over here. So I wonder what this knight's plan exactly is. Bishop retreats, defending the knight. This bishop takes, and now e5 is played. So that's pretty exciting. So instead of just like e6 with sort of passive development, e5 is played, threatening e4, and there's black now is the player who has more space in this position. You can see that black is up half a pawn according to Crafty. b4, rook centralizes, castles, king comes up. He has this possibility to push, but he doesn't want to do it immediately because it could be good to exchange, and it's not really good for white to take because then the knight is centralized, and the knight is much stronger than the bishop there. So potentially this bishop could be good because all the pawns are on light squares, but the bishop will have to find some targets, and it doesn't have too many yet. So a4 is played along with b4 in order to try to create some weaknesses. This is kind of called a minority attack, where you might play rook over, push up, and then try to create some weaknesses in this structure. Sorry, that's another mistake. So h5, and now he pushes over here, creating an open h file, which could become a factor. That could be interesting. So now there's another exchange, opening up lines, which in some sense is good for the bishop, but perhaps these rooks, they look like they control the e file, which rooks belong on open files. Is one proverb. So the knight comes out. Now the minority attack continues. Kamsky pushes his pawn, and this rook comes over, attacking down the b file. But the e file is the file that's already open, which could be a little bit more powerful. f4 is played, which is a pretty exciting move. If g takes, then king f5, and he'll be able to recapture the pawn, according to Crafty. But so Crafty thought that the king would come here and take, but instead Kamsky plays with the knight, and now Kamsky's threatening to take back with the knight, which after some reflection, the computer thinks is good as well. So takes, and rook down, attacking the base of the pawn structure, which is significant, but there's a check. The bishop blocks. That looks like it's a blunder. No, this is basically a tactic, and the computer didn't even really see it. So this move is a blunder because of check, and now it's just like a devastating situation. Let's see what happens if king moves. If king moves, then rook h8, and that's basically GG because obviously, yeah, it's too good because this you're basically. The king is basically trapped. The knight's even threatening this square. You're creating a checkmate situation. Like, for example, if white does nothing, then it's mate after takes, king g3, king g5, rook b8, rook g1 with mate right here. If here to defend this square, it just looks terrible. There's definitely a mating situation. I'm thinking check, king here, takes, king here, takes, mate. Okay, so let's go back. So it looks like here there's rook down, and then check is like a devastating play because after... Oh, okay, we have to go back with this button instead. So, okay, here there's check, bishop blocks, and now there's this tactic that Crafty doesn't see immediately, but sees after some small reflection. What? Oh, this tactic isn't even played. Knight takes f4, supposed to be double exclam with minus 2.5, but Kamsky apparently doesn't see it, minus 3. So knight takes f4 might be a huge tactic, at least according to the computer. The computer definitely thinks that this is a devastating play. You sack this pawn, basically you take here, then takes here, then the king comes forward. And they do have a devastating pass pawn, but at the same time you have a immediate mating attack that will end in the game. But instead he decides to play a little bit more conservative, still with a pretty decisive advantage, but not playing for the immediate win. The rook comes down and the rook moves, attacking the d4 square. So Kamsky deciding to play a little bit more positional rather than tactical, which, you know, it's reasonable. I prefer, you know, really tactical players. I think maybe Hikaru Nakamura would have played for the other line, but you know, it's okay. There's different ways to play chess. And Kamsky is obviously a great player as he is. You know, he knows when to take risks, and in this position he knows that he doesn't really have to take a risk because he is way ahead anyway. So f5 is played, the king takes, the rook checks, the king retreats, rook comes out again, but it looks like g3 could be played, but instead he plays knight g3, which is pretty exciting as well. The pawn can't take because then this rook or this rook are both attacking here, and it's I guess it's mate in 2. You take with this rook first, and then you bring this rook down to this square, mate in 2. So the pawn definitely can't take. There's a check, and the king retreats, and now he takes here, but he's going to lose this bishop with check. Well, the knight decides to take it. King retreats, knight retreats, and now black has, you know, obviously a decisive advantage, having much more material. And so that's the end of that game. So Portland Chess Shop, again, if you can like this video, it really helps me out. Thanks a lot. So appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you guys next time.